Don Russo, hope you're doing well. Coming to you from Freeway Music. And today I'm going to be talking about the basics. Yeah, I know it's a terrible pun. But I'm going to be talking about bass. We had someone comment and say they were curious about basics on the bass guitar. So I'm going to talk about that today. This is one of my favorite instruments. Guitar has always been my primary instrument, but bass is one of my favorite go-tos. It's like a nice departure from the guitar. So the first thing I tell students who are interested in the bass, just imagine like if a rhythm guitar, just an electric guitar, and a drum set had a baby, and then it would be a bass guitar. Because let's face it, bass is really part of the rhythm section. So first and foremost, it's very important that you understand that this is a rhythm instrument, okay? So before we get into that, let's just talk about some basic techniques. So you hold the guitar similarly to how you hold the bass is similarly how you hold a guitar. Some people like to hold their basses up like this. My friend Andre Consalves, who's way better at bass than I am, and way better than I'll ever be, likes to hold it this way. And he says he does that so that his wrist can be straight, so that the blood flow is good here and here. His wrists are straight, and he's comfortable relaxing. His shoulders are level. So this is probably actually the best way to hold it. I'm going to be holding it this way, so don't shun me. I'm a guitar player, and I grew up playing this way, so I've always put the instrument on my right leg. So anyway, as far as your right hand technique, what you want to do is you can do several things, okay? You can play with your fingers, you can play with your thumb, you can even play with a pick. I'm not picky, no pun intended there for sure, as far as like which way to do it. I'm going to show you all three and show you what they sound like. Now, I will say that I think the tone definitely matters for what you're going for. I think it really depends on the style you're playing. So for me, I like to use these two fingers whenever I'm playing a lot of stuff. So I rest my thumb. Sometimes I just float in the air. Sometimes I rest it on the adjacent string. The reason I do that is so that when I play a note, this note doesn't ring, so I don't go and hit that one by accident. Another thing to know is that you don't really want your fingers curled over. You're not clawing at the strings. It's a little bit more longer, more of a smooth thing. So your fingers should be long and kind of not doing this, not clawing at them like that. Okay, but a little bit longer. Some basses have a thumb rest here. I don't have one of those on mine. I'm not really particularly fond of that, but some people like that. I do like resting my thumb on the adjacent string though to keep it from ringing out. I do think that's very helpful. So if you use your fingers, you're going to have a basic tone, kind of like somewhere in the middle. It's a nice warm tone, but it's not too, it cuts through a little bit better than when you use your thumb. I will say if you want more of a Jaco Pastorius type sound, Jaco is a really famous bass player. Check him out. If you're interested in bass, look up Jaco Pastorius. That's J-A-C-O, Jaco Pastorius, P-A-S-T-O-R-I-O-U-S. That's kind of hard to spell that without writing it. So he plays back here by the bridge, and so he gets more of a brighter sound. Down here by picking at the bridge, it really cuts through, and you get a lot of attack, and it also makes it sound a little bit more staccato. It's got a really great, it's a great tone for funky stuff. As opposed to so that was me doing a riff here and then a riff here. You can hear the tone difference. So you can play with your thumb also like this. A lot of times I love to play with my thumb. So I just like the tone of it. It's got a nice warm tone. And also when I play with my thumb, I tend to naturally play behind the beat more than I do with my fingers. Probably because my thumb's a little lazier than my fingers are. We'll talk about playing behind the beat in just a minute, so hang on for that. But man, I just love that. So I'm just basically just resting my palm back here and just using my thumb. So now a lot of people might knock that, but if you know anything about some great bass players, James Jamerson, Marvin Gaye, he played a lot of tunes with Marvin Gaye and stuff like. He uses thumb exclusively, and only his thumb. Victor Wooten's really good at using his thumb, but he obviously uses his fingers too. So you can use your thumb exclusively if you like. It can have some drawbacks. The other option is to use a pick. A lot of you guitar players are like, "Yay, I can use a pick." A pick is really good for like rocking and stuff, you know. So if I'm doing this kind of, that has a really, you can hear how it sounds pretty rocking as opposed to. It just doesn't cut through as much to pick. Anyway, so a pick is really good for doing that kind of rocking sound. Okay, so first things first, you want to make sure that you pick the kind of style you want to use and then practice it. If you're using your first and second finger, I recommend doing something like this, like just playing like a 1, 2, 3, 4 exercise, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. I'm just doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, finger 4, finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, finger 4. And if you're a little confused by switching these and these at the same time, you can always just do 2 on each, like this, to start off with. You can speed it up, obviously, get faster. Anyway, so that I use these 2 fingers a lot, and I sometimes use my thumb and my index on the right hand a lot. Like, I mean, that's just my personal style. Again, it's not right. I don't think there's any set right or wrong. Do what feels comfortable to you. I think some people will argue that there is a right or wrong, but I think all the great players, you look at Wes Montgomery, who plays one of the best jazz guitar players of all time, played with his thumb as well. And people don't knock him. He sounds pretty awesome. All right. So moving along. So that's kind of like some just really simple techniques to look out for. Stay close to the fret wires on your left hand. You know, make sure that you are, I think on bass, for me personally, if I'm doing a 2-fret like stretch, I like to use my pinky. Some people might want to use their ring finger. I just like being relaxed when I play. So anyway, that's just another little short tidbit. All right, let's get into what I was referring to earlier as groove. Like, so to me, the most important part about being a great bass player is having good tone and having really good groove. So I got a drum beat here. I'm going to talk to you about a couple different things. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what my teacher Robert Newton referred to as the snare hole. So the snare hole. So it's an odd term, I know. So it's the spot where the snare falls into. And it's a lot of people refer to is like a pocket, you know. So I want to show you like how to leave a room for the snare to pop. You don't have to always do it, but I do want to show you that. So check this out. So I got this funky groove here. Well, and real quick before I talk about the snare hole, I want to talk about the bass drum. Let's talk about that first, because I think before I get to the snare, I want to talk about the bass. One thing that a great bass player does is sync up with what's happening with the bass. Okay, so if we listen to this beat here, so we got the bass is going boom, 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 boom. So if I could play with that, it'll be groovy. Check it out. So as long as I'm hitting those beats, I can do any notes. Like, check it out. So I'm still accenting the bass drum. I can do more than just the bass drum, but I should at least include the bass drum in my feel. Okay. So for example, I could do this. a little busier, but I'm still getting it. Cool. You don't always have to follow the kick drum, but it definitely is a good place to start. All right. Now back to the snare hole. You guys are always probably all thinking like, what is the snare hole? So on 2 and 4 of a beat, you'll hear 1, 3, 4, the snare, right? So what I want to do is I want to leave like a little bit of space right there on the snare. So check it out. What I like to do is hold a note out right to the snare hits and then drop and just pop, let the snare pop and leave a pocket for it, or what I call the snare hole. So check it out. Check it out. So I'm like stopping the strings right before it gets to the snare. So the snare pops. A lot of bass players pop with their fingers, like, which I think is fine if you're playing by yourself. But if you're playing with a drummer, you have to either be perfectly in time and sync with the drummer, or don't do it, because you can clash. Like a lot of drummers do that. A lot of bass players will go and just be like off with the drums, and it sounds kind of like, it just sounds off. So just be careful. I lean towards just letting the drummer do his job. That's just me personally. Again, everybody has their own preference. All right, so that is the snare hole. We talked about locking in with the kick drum. We talked about some basic technique. Now let's talk about being groovy and staying on the back of the beat, okay? So if you don't know what that means, let me pull up a metronome real quick here so I can show you what the differences between front, middle, and back of beat is. This is, and I'll tell you how I discovered it. I went to Nashville. I was in a recording session. I was there for a month recording on this album up there, this project. And the engineer called me into the control room. He's like, hey, man, or he called me over the little microphone in my ears. He's like, dude, you're like totally pushing the beat. And I was like, there's no way. And he's like, oh yeah, you're pushing the beat. I was like, dude, there's no way. He's like, come in here. And so he showed me like the line where the beat was, and he showed me how I was playing right before the beat every time. And I was like, I was pushing the beat like every time. And I was like, golly, man. So I spent like a year really working on this. So let me show you what it looks like. All right, let's see if I can get my metronome rolling here. We'll slow it down just a bit, and I'm also going to turn it up a bit. All right, so check this out. So I'm going to try to play like dead center of the beat. So now, so I'm trying to play right on top of the beat, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play in front of the beat. I'm going to push it. Check it out. So I'm going to go. So I'm right in front of the beat. And that's where a lot of beginners play. A lot of beginners push the beat. A lot of beginners like are in front of the beat. And they're really frantic and not relaxed. Now I'm going to play on the back of the beat. So check it out. I'm over exaggerating here sometimes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this funky groove here again, and I'm going to play a beat for you that is like a little pushing and a beat that is a little bit behind the beat. You tell me what you think feels better. You can comment if you'd like. I'm going to turn this down a smidge. All right, so check it out. This is going to be pushing the beat. All right, I'll do my best. good. So I think you get the idea. If you're like me, you're probably cringing. I'm like cringing right now playing it. So now I'm going to try to play something on the back of the beat. All right, so here we go. Million times better, right? Could you feel it? Like it feels like 100 times better. So far, have good technique in your fingers and your hands. Make sure that you lock in with the bass drum a lot of the times. Make sure that you leave a snare hole. Make sure that you have play on the back of the beat. And the last thing I'll give you as far as like starting off with bass, know where your notes are on the neck. That is like the most important thing to a bass player. You're basically going to be on root notes 90% of the time to start your riffs, depending on what style of music you're doing. But seriously, like you're going to be like on a root note a lot of the time. So if you don't know where your notes are, that's going to really leave you stranded when you're playing bass. So just make sure, you can there's 2 exercises you can do. Like pick your note A and just like find it on each string like that. Or find a note like D and just play it on each string like this. Or you could just name the notes straight up and down in different places, like A, D, G, C, G, C, F, B flat, D, G, C, F. Just get used to finding where your notes are quickly. I think the best thing to do is probably pick like a simple chord progression like G, D, E minor, C, and just do it in different places like G, D, E, C, G, D, E, C. You know what I mean? G, D, E, C. G, D, E, C. So that way you won't be lost if you're trying to like chase like this is like a rock thing. So that way I'm always confident that I'm going to get to a root note no matter what I'm doing. Okay, so there you go. Those are your basics. If you have questions, I can show you more advanced stuff for sure. Or if you have some just questions on what we talked about today, just comment and ask, and then I'll be happy to answer. If there's something else that you would like to learn about, this is something that somebody asked on one of the comments, like, can you teach us about bass? And I was like, absolutely. So whatever you guys want to learn, bass, guitar, ukulele, mandolin, you name it. You want to learn basics, you want to learn how to play a specific song, you want to learn something advanced, whatever, bring it. We'll teach it to you guys. So thank you so much. Don Russo, Freeway Music. See you guys next time.